Joseph was the beloved son of Jacob, born to him in his old age. Among all his sons, Jacob loved Joseph deeply and often showed him special favor. Joseph was kind, intelligent, and faithful. But his brothers noticed their father's preference. This made them feel jealous and hurt. Every day, Joseph worked alongside his brothers in the fields of Canaan, caring for sheep and helping the family. Although life seemed peaceful, resentment was slowly growing in the hearts of his brothers. They did not realize that God had a remarkable plan for Joseph, one that would eventually change the lives of nations. To show his love, Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful coat made of many colorful pieces of fabric. The coat was unlike anything his brothers owned. When Joseph wore it, everyone could see how much Jacob favored him. Instead of celebrating with Joseph, his brothers became even more jealous. They believed Joseph was being treated better than they were. Every glance at the colorful coat reminded them of the difference in their father's affection, as Joseph proudly wore the gift. He remained unaware of how deeply his brother's anger was growing against him. One night, Joseph had a remarkable dream. He saw bundles of grain in a field, and the bundles belonging to his brothers bowed before his own. Later, he dreamed that the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. Excited by these visions, Joseph shared them with his family. His brothers became furious. They believed Joseph was claiming he would one day rule over them. Even Jacob wondered about the meaning of the dreams, though nobody fully understood them. God was revealing a future that seemed impossible at the As the years passed, Joseph's brothers could no longer hide their jealousy. Every dream Joseph shared seemed to increase their anger. They believed he was arrogant and undeserving of special treatment. One day, while tending sheep far from home, they saw Joseph approaching in his colorful coat. Their bitterness reached a breaking point. Some brothers suggested killing him. Others argued against such violence. In the end, they agreed to teach him a lesson. Joseph walked toward them unaware that his life was about to change forever. When Joseph reached his brothers, they grabbed him and tore away his beautiful coat. Ignoring his cries for help, they threw him into a deep, empty pit. Joseph sat alone in darkness, frightened and confused. Above him, his brothers discussed what to do next. He could hear their voices while desperately hoping someone would rescue him. Though abandoned by those closest to him, God had not abandoned Joseph. What seemed like the end of his story was actually the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would eventually lead him to greatness. A caravan of traders traveling toward Egypt passed nearby. Instead of leaving Joseph in the pit, his brothers sold him as a slave for silver coins. As the caravan moved away, Joseph looked back at his homeland with tears in his eyes. His brothers returned home carrying his colorful coat stained with animal blood, convincing Jacob that Joseph had been killed by a wild beast. Meanwhile, Joseph's journey to Egypt continued across vast deserts, though he felt alone and betrayed. God's unseen hand continued guiding his future. In Egypt, Joseph was purchased by Potiphar, an important officer serving Pharaoh. Joseph worked diligently and faithfully in his master's household. Everything he touched seemed to prosper soon. Potiphar placed Joseph in charge of his entire estate. Joseph earned trust through honesty, wisdom, and hard work. Though separated from his family and homeland, he remained faithful to God. His life appeared to be improving. However, another difficult trial was waiting for him. Once again, Joseph would face injustice despite doing what was right. After being falsely accused of wrongdoing, Joseph was thrown into prison. Despite his innocence, he found himself behind stone walls surrounded by prisoners. Yet Joseph refused to give in to bitterness or despair. Even in prison, he remained faithful and trustworthy. The prison keeper soon noticed Joseph's wisdom and placed him in charge of many responsibilities. Though life seemed unfair, Joseph continued trusting God. The prison that appeared to be another setback would soon become the place where God opened the next chapter of Joseph's extraordinary destiny. While in prison, Joseph met Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. Both men were troubled by mysterious dreams they could not understand. Joseph explained that interpretations belonged to God and carefully revealed the meaning of each dream. Everything happened exactly as Joseph predicted. The cupbearer was restored to Pharaoh's service, while the baker faced judgment. Before leaving, Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him. But years passed, and Joseph remained forgotten in prison. Still, God's perfect timing was approaching, and Joseph's greatest opportunity was drawing near. One night, Pharaoh experienced troubling dreams involving 7 healthy cows and 7 thin cows, followed by 7 healthy ears of grain and 7 withered ones. None of Egypt's wise men could explain them. Suddenly, The couple remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and explained that 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of severe famine. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh recognized that God was with him. The ruler of Egypt made a decision that would change Joseph's life forever. Pharaoh appointed Joseph as second in command over all Egypt. Joseph supervised the storage of grain during 7 years of abundance. Massive storehouses filled with food across the land. People admired Joseph's wisdom and leadership. When famine finally arrived, Egypt was prepared while neighboring nations struggled to survive. Joseph's rise from slave to ruler seemed impossible. Yet God had guided every step of his journey. The dreams Joseph received as a young boy were slowly moving toward fulfillment in ways nobody could have imagined. The famine spread into Canaan, forcing Joseph's brothers to travel to Egypt seeking food. When they stood before Joseph, they did not recognize him. Years had passed, and he now looked like an Egyptian ruler. Joseph immediately recognized them. Memories of betrayal flooded his mind. He tested their character to see whether they had changed. His brothers bowed before him just as his childhood dreams had foretold. The moment was emotional and unforgettable. God's plan was unfolding exactly as he had revealed. Many years earlier, unable to hide his emotions any longer, Joseph dismissed the gods and revealed his true identity. His brothers stood frozen in shock and fear. They expected punishment for what they had done years earlier. Instead, Joseph embraced them with tears in his eyes. He explained that although they intended harm, God had used their actions to save countless lives during the famine. The brothers wept together as years of pain, guilt, and separation finally began to heal through forgiveness and love. Joseph invited his father Jacob and the entire family to live safely in Egypt. After many years of sorrow, Jacob was reunited with the son he thought was dead. The family celebrated together with gratitude and joy. Joseph reflected on his incredible journey from favored son to slave, prisoner, and finally ruler. Through every hardship, God had been working for good. The story of Joseph became a powerful reminder that faith, patience, forgiveness, and trust in God can transform even the darkest circumstances into blessings beyond imagination.